talk about fears. Let's talk about love. Yeah, I got fears, but I ain't got no love.
The Vow. Okay, so NXVIM. It starts out as this guy named Keith Raniere, who is the brains behind it. Keith Raniere and his female companion, and I don't remember her name. I want to say Robin, but they're smarter than everybody else. Okay, this Keith Raniere is in the 5% of the highest IQ in the world. Don't know where they come up with this, because I could spend 5 minutes with this guy and tell he's talking bullshit. Okay, but it's so amazing how people, whether it's Scientology, Heaven's Gate, NXVIM, Charles Manson, all these people do, these Keith Raniere, Charles Manson, L. Ron Hubbard, the people that are in charge of these things, and Heaven's Gate too, they all claim that they're the smartest people in the world. That's how it starts off to me, looking at it. They all seem like, hey, and how they buy into it. Because everybody, I think, reaches a point in life where they are looking for something. Their purpose. What's my purpose? What's my goal? What's my point of being here on earth? And then they find somebody who starts spouting off all this bullshit, and that's what it is. It's jumblized words that make them look educated. And by that I mean they just, if you watch them speak and you look at the sentences that they're speaking, if you break it down, you're like, it makes absolutely no fucking sense. Okay? So these people think, well, shit, that doesn't make sense. Because it doesn't make sense in my mind, he must be smart. He must be brilliant. I'm going to follow everything he says. So as I'm watching this, I'm seeing these people who are educated, who seem to be smart, following this guy's teachings. You know, how you, just like Scientology and everything else, how you can unlock these things in the mind. And honestly, it's sickening. It really is, because I just don't understand how people can follow these other people. And I don't want to talk bad about them, because obviously they needed something in their life, and that was it at that time. I mean, he recruited people like Allison Mack, who was an actress on Smallville, and a regular, and the heiresses to the Seagram's liquor. So, I mean, millions of dollars and people, and he created like this system and of how you're supposed to live joyful. And you do that by getting rid of your fears, but you have to give collateral so that you can never leave. So he would recruit these people, and all of a sudden they started making like subsections within NXVIM. You know, like SOP. They were like the Sons or Standards of Protectors or something, some bullshit like that, where these guys were the protectors, and it was a leadership course, and people would pay money not only to get into this NXVIM, but to run these courses. He would give them sashes with stripes on to say you know, and you would have to give money to keep moving up in rank to be a leader. It's just, I kept looking at this documentary, and I didn't watch it all, okay? I did like the first 3 or 4, then I skipped to number 9 because it was so poorly done. And I just kept looking at these people, and I just kept saying out loud, literally, you're so weak. Weak. You guys are so weak. And I hate to say that. But my God, somebody needed to be there to slap sense into these people. You're giving away your life earnings to find the purpose of life? Come to my house. I'll give you it for free. Okay? You don't even have to pay me. You know? So within this subculture, just like everything else revolves around this, they created a section, a group within NXVIM that was basically a sex cult, where Allison Mack, this big actress, was the head of. And what this did was they would get slaves, and they would call themselves master and slave. So Keith Raniere, as the head of NXVIM, was the master. His slave was Allison Mack. So they were the top two. She's having sex with him. Allison Mack recruits this girl named Sarah. Sarah recruits this. And so it's a whole network and tree of masters and slaves. And within this group, you have to lose calories. You have to count your calories to lose weight. You have to ask permission to do certain things, to eat certain things. And it was put out in the recruitment as it's a empowerment movement for women. And these women, not only did they accept that, and to accept that, they had to give explicit photos of themselves. Allison Mack, lined these recruits up on a couch, told them that they had to take pictures of their vaginas. She took the pictures. She remarked certain things. Those were held as collateral. If you ever leave this group, we will expose this. Well, that's blackmail, ladies and gentlemen. I don't care how you spin it. That's blackmail. And that's why it's done. Because you know there's some sort of criminal or at least unethical issue with what you're doing. So you are having these people that are coming into this group give you explicit photographs, sex videos, and the reason you do that is because there's something wrong with it and you don't want them to tell anybody. That's the only reason. So he got these people to do it. Just like Charles Manson got people to kill for him. It's unreal. It really is. How people fall for this shit. But it all comes down to, in every cult that I've ever looked at, and the ones that I have mentioned, Manson, NXVIM, Heaven's Gate, Scientology, there's always an element of sex from the leader. Let me take that back, because I can't say that specifically on Scientology, a little bit on Heaven's Gate, but for sure, Charles Manson, David Koresh, I forgot to mention him from Waco, NXVIM. Okay, so you have Koresh, you have Keith Raniere, you have Charles Manson. All three have people following their teachings, their preaching, and ultimately, it ends up being about having sex with your members. Now, is that their intent when they started? Maybe. You ask some rock and roll stars, why did you start playing music? Because I wanted women. I wanted to have sex with good-looking women. Okay. So I can't say that's why they did it. But I will say I do know this. They preyed upon people, their fears. The easiest way to get people to follow you is to tell them what they want to hear. Things that they have been missing their whole life. And Charles Manson was a master at this. Okay? He would stand the girls in front of him and mirror their movements. you're looking into a mirror. I'm going to tell you everything that you've always wanted to hear because I'm you. And these girls, it didn't help that, drugs were a part of the culture then. They fell in love with him. And he had sex with all of them. He had orgies with all of them. Just like Keith Raniere. And in fact, when he was getting arrested, he fled to Mexico. When the police came, they were getting ready to have an orgy. Okay? So, I think there is a direct correlation between these cults and sex. Now, you could look at it and say, well, and I do look at it this way. It's human nature, right? Where do most affairs happen? Work. Now, why is that? Well, one, it's because you have something in common. Let's say you work together and you're always talking and you're always together. You start to have a bond, and then physical attraction happens, and then the sex happens. So it's not necessarily that you start out with your teachings, which could be completely innocent, which Raniere's, I think maybe that's how it was. The women, and probably some men, I don't know, fell in love with that mind. Because I don't think he was a good looking fucking guy at all. I'm looking at Allison Mack and I'm like, oh my God, what's she doing with this freaking guy? But I digress. People fall in love with people's minds, okay? But when they're spouting bullshit and just things that you want to hear, if you would take 10 minutes of your life to go home and sit down and think about what he's actually telling you. Because all of these people now, Allison Mack, the Sarah, the Mark that was on there, they all, now that they're away from NXVIM, now they're all like, oh yeah, it's bullshit. He used it. Well, why the fuck couldn't you see that while you were there for 10 years? Because you have to step away, right? Step away, look at it, listen to the people around you. Your mom, your dad, people that are not in that. And if they tell you you're fucking crazy, listen to them, right? But I'm astonished by the people that follow these people. I mean, I get looking for a purpose in life. I think we all do that, especially anybody who is a critical thinker. Like for me, I'm always, what's the purpose? What's my next challenge? I gotta, as a warrior, a warrior always needs a war to fight. A warrior always needs a challenge, or the warrior might as well be dead. Okay? You look at, if you don't have something to accomplish, if you just go day to day, mundane, I think sometimes that pushes you to find something or someone to follow. And I think that's exactly what happened in this NXVIM.